Okay, I want to welcome you all to the March 7th meeting of the Barnstable County Regional Commissioners, and if you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if we could all take a moment of silence to remember those who serve our country, both here and abroad, and particularly for all those who have given their lives for us. Thank you. Our first order of business is public comment. And
I believe we have some.
Yes, we do.
Some of our good friends are here.
From the
I do. Oh, somebody else?
Yeah, behind you.
Behind you.
You want to make some?
Go ahead.
It'd be helpful if you would come up to the front chairs.
Sure.
It makes it a lot easier. And I will ask you to introduce yourselves, even though we know who you are.
I'm Diane Casey-Lee with the Cape Cod Council of Churches.
Good to see you, Diane.
And Jill Scalisi with the Cape Cod Council of
Always a
Churches.
pleasure to see
Yeah.
both of you.
Good to be here.
We just want to give you good news. The county, Barnstable County, through the county commissioners and the Assembly of Delegates, invested $11,500 to support the council's overnights of hospitality in 2011, and $12,500 to support and sustain the program last year when we were tottering. And the good news is, using both those facts, I was able to write a number of grants stating that we have the support of the county. And one grant was awarded from the United Way, Cape and the Islands, in the amount of $41,800. Another grant from Davenport Foundation for $5,000. And another grant from Cape Cod 5 in the amount of $5,000. This was all in this past year. The Davenport grant, we pledged to match the $5,000, so we're hoping to add another $5,000 to that. The United Way grant cobbled together all of our homeless ministries, which is overnights of hospitality case management, overnights of hospitality coordination, and our street outreach project. So I just want to thank you for your support and let you know that your investment has paid back tremendously. Not only allowed us to continue our programmatic work, but to leverage your dollars and your support to get the support we need now. Jill has statistics that I think will only take about a minute or two, but I think it's important, we feel it's important for you to have those kinds of numbers to understand what we were able to do and how we do it.
Okay, here you go. Those are just some quick statistics for you. And in the present fiscal year, from July 2011 through February, we have been able to provide over 2,000 nights of safe shelter. We've had over 2,200 client-related contacts with over 80 different clients, assisted 24 individuals in moving into more permanent housing, and provided ongoing housing support services to over 30 individuals, as well as distributing over $5,000 in financial assistance to help people with food and also move into apartments or maintain their tenancies. And at this point now, I'd like to share that since the overnights began in since overnights case management began 7 years ago, we've been able to assist over 210 people moving into more permanent housing. And since the overnights began itself, before case management even, but just the churches, since the overnights of hospitality began, we've provided over 32,000 nights of shelter, which would cost over $1.28 million if the community were paying for that shelter. So we just want to thank you very much for your support and what we've been able to do with that, and with the whole Cape Cod community working together to help address homelessness.
That's great. That really is good news, Diane, no question. And I think when organizations succeed in their mission and they do a good job, they get other organizations to contribute to them because they see the good work that you do. So not only is it great that you received it, but it also recognizes the work that you do.
Well, those
So
organizations that we appeal to sort of, I think, viewed the county support as the Good Housekeeping Seal of Approval. And we didn't, did a thorough research, but I know that made a difference because I talked with the grant officers, so I'm very grateful.
Well, very good, and thank you for coming in and
Sure.
sharing that good news with us. Bill?
But before we go, we should point out that there's a member of the Assembly who was your champion with regard to this, because we didn't have any money, and we had passed on whether or not we could support it. So I think that in due deference, we should recognize that Marcia was the one that
Yes.
that basically pushed this
Yeah,
forward.
I am going to speak later this afternoon, the same message to the Assembly of Delegates Subcommittee. Unfortunately, I have to be at the college, sort of a command performance at 3 o'clock, and I hopefully will get back in time. But if not, I've asked I've asked Marcia to, if she's comfortable and is appropriate, to give the same report if I'm not there to do it.
Good. Great. Thank you. Great. Thanks
Thank
very much.
you.
Good job,
Thank you.
Diane
Thank
and
you.
Joe, both. Any other? Jerry?
Yeah, this is just a brief comment, but I believe we want to congratulate you on the successful conclusion of the process calling for the examination of government. And we have followed the work closely, as you know. I want to congratulate them on doing it so thoughtfully. And we were very pleased with the openness and transparency with which the study was carried out throughout. We do regret, there's always an however, that the issue of public information was not touched by the group in their recommendations. This remains, we think, a very serious problem for the county and for progress to continue. The best kept secret has always been the county, As you discuss action to take following the receipt of the Commission's recommendations, I think you will really see clearly that the primary task is to present the recommendations as well as any action you may take or not take, to the citizenry in a way that is easily accessed by everybody. And furthermore, that the recommendations will need to be accompanied with sufficient background to provide the public with the means to make a judgment. As I have read the recommendations, they're very terse. And I think any effort to get action one way or the other has to have sufficient background so that people understand why they were made and what they hope to do. We think that this requires professional guidance, and we're very sorry that the county has never had a public information office or officer, and we urge you to give this your very full attention. So,
Thank you very much.
if this makes any difference.
I might add that at NACO, the National Association of County Officials, this is a problem that you're speaking about that is shared by practically every county in the United States.
I
some-
looked at
excuse me.
Plymouth, and they have one newsletter from one commissioner. So I know.
And one of the immediate past president of NACO started an effort where there were templates and newsletter formats that you could download and use. And I believe we had looked at that. But the issue for the when we asked what is the impediment for the county commissioners in other jurisdictions, it is we have a certain amount of resources to do the job that the taxpayer tells us to do, and we don't have the money for I'll say self-promotion, but let's say for providing information to people usually goes further down. And indeed, when one of the things that they give out at every meeting is a booklet which we have shared with people called Guide for Counties for Media Relations, and we certainly have this. Unfortunately, and just speaking for myself now, that in spite of our intention, we don't seem to be able to find the money to truly support what I'd call a sustainable public information effort. But I think we're trying.
I think that should be on our list
I do
of
too.
priorities as we go through this, as we have our discussion today in terms of how we're going to move forward with these recommendations, is to include things like public information, because this will not be successful if we don't have a way to communicate it to the public. So thank you for your thoughts, Cherry. Very important. So the first item on our agenda is, it's really a very open discussion on the RUS, the Regional Umbrella Service Systems. I think the idea is that this is more of an open dialogue in terms of setting priorities and looking at process about moving forward with this. There are any number of ways to go about this. It can be very complex, and we can take something hopefully complex and make it a little more simple. This is not a time for decision making. It's really a time for really exploring what are some of the process steps that we need to think about and include as we move forward in developing the RUS services. So I see some of the major players here. Does anybody want to start this out?
Excuse
Do
me,
you
is
want
Dan
to?
Gallagher supposed to?
He was invited, so I don't know whether I didn't
Okay.
see
Well, why
that.
don't we ask Paul and Mark and Sean, are you involved with this
Mark.
conversation? Yeah. I mean, excuse me, John. I always call him Mark.
Oh,
Mark.
Mark Morse.
While I was at NACO, the Vincent Institute at the University of Georgia came up with the 11 case studies on
Yeah.
counties that have attempted to consolidate, review charters and things of that sort. And some of the most instructive part of that is the lessons that they learned. And the thread seems to be participation, patience, clarity, and communication. So, having said that, as far as an overview, I think we'd be well served to take a look at what some of the lessons learned as we incorporate them going forward. But I think we need to.
Well, I want to
participate.
say that Bill just returned from a National Association of Counties meeting in Washington, D.C. this morning. So he is all fired up with
Yeah.
information and new ideas. So
NACO.
we just give him the opportunity to
know
share
when we
his
can go on
thoughts
the
as we
trip.
go along. Okay.
next time we
Do you
all
want to
do that.
start this, Paul, by any chance? Discussion?
Dan Gallagher was going to.
I know, he's supposed to be, he was supposed to be here.
Should we,
He's just a highway
Give him a
with
call
the vehicles on
and,
that highway.
That's a good point.
Well, he won't, he's leaving, actually. I mean, he's out of the process.
well,
so
he
he
won't be
says.
part of the,
He's building the
ongoing
infrastructure,
solution.
but it's up to us to move this network forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think
But
that,
obviously, he has to help us with that.
I will inadequately try to step in for
Sure.
Dan in the explanation of the process, but the reason I think it's before you now is there is a certain decision point that needs to be made, because Open Cape has to make a decision as to whether they're going to build this regional area network or not. And they need to have a sort of a structure to plug that into in order to make that decision go on. So we have been meeting. This is the way that I look at it, sort of along the lines of what Bill explained, is that Open Cape is stringing the lines right now. So they're building the highway, and it'll be complete next January. And that's really what they're doing. They're in charge of that broadband fiber infrastructure. But the question is, once it's out there, how are we going to use it to best serve the interests of the region, the towns, and the taxpayers? And so that we've been giving it some thought. The commission on its own has been contemplating how to sort of bridge the gap and provide better services to the towns in a way that sort of support the towns and offload some of their individual expenses. And what has emerged is this concept of digital regionalization. And in past efforts at regionalization, we run into predictable obstacles, and I think there are two major ones, and they are issues of control and issues of identity. And I think the real advantage to this digital regionalization is it overcomes those two hurdles. So what we have at the Commission have been contemplating is the ability to invest in some more information services and information that we can share with the towns on a shared platform. And that includes an e-permitting initiative that we just completed, $500,000 grant application for the Commonwealth. That was really an initiative that started in the town of Yarmouth, who has made great strides to it. And what Yarmouth found out is it would cost them as much to get it to buy the necessary licenses as it would for the entire county. So clearly, it made sense because of the economy of scale of providing that particular service to engage other communities, and so we've worked with them. That's what the e-permitting application is about. And it holds the promise of centralizing some of these functions, but in a way where every town has its own portal, maintains its own identity, and maintains control over what that website looks like. But the promise of e-permitting is that at some point not too far in the future, say a building inspector could wake up in his home with a municipally issued iPad, his list of things that he would need to do would be on that, and the route would already be worked out for him, and then they would go from house to house making inspections. The ability to take photographs, had that immediately sort of post, and even check particular contractors that the homeowner has hired in an interface with a state database to make sure that they're properly listed. So it provides the opportunity to be much more efficient, ultimately to decrease the municipal investment and expenditure in this area, and to provide better information that we can use when we make decisions regionally that relate to these kinds of public policies. So in addition to e-permitting, though, we have a GIS department, and there are some towns that would be interested in the county or the commission being able to provide those sort of GIS services directly, especially some of the smaller towns. We are currently unable to do that because we don't have we have the download capacity in some of these Outer Cape towns, but we don't have the upload capacity. And GIS files are big files. So Open Cape will solve that problem and make that potential a reality. And the other issue that we've been having discussions with town managers, town administrators on is sort of shared assessing data. So whether it's e-permitting, GIS, assessing, all of these are areas where we can amass information up here, push that in the formats that the towns want to them, and it can help us think more strategically about municipal policies and regional policies and how they all tie together. And the big piece that we're working on internally at the Commission right now is on wastewater. And so we are developing and modifying a regional wastewater management plan. But more than a plan, what is going to be the most important byproduct, I think, of this process will be a tool. And it will be a tool that will identify watersheds and sub-watersheds, and we have data layers that we've been working on at the Commission that we've originated. We've got a lot of intellectual property over there that is homegrown at the Commission. And we'll be able to stack this up in a way where we'll be able to provide this tool to municipalities that are struggling with the issue of wastewater and how to deal with it. And it will look at alternatives where they may be, you may be able to use some of these alternatives and which sub-watersheds the appropriate land use characteristics are. And so it will help towns by eliminating their need to do a build-out analysis, which can be costly as part of their CWMPs, and will give them a better understanding and better footing before they go out and hire an engineering firm to come in and help them design a solution to these wastewater issues. So I think it saves towns money. It provides an extraordinary amount of information that's compiled in a very user-friendly way. And this is a result of us watching local municipal CWMPs going through, being at town meetings and hearing the objections, and to Jerry's point a lot, knowing that we have to provide more information, we have to engage with the public, and we have to do it in a user-friendly way. And this tool doesn't make any presumption about what should be in what sub-watershed. It allows the flexibility and the parameters for local decision makers to have some say and some input, and for average taxpayers to sort of test their assumptions about the solution in a model and get some some information back. So we think it's an incredibly important tool, but it is another example of a piece of information that we would like to be able to share with municipalities. And the only way to do this, to take the information that we're developing in the Strategic Information Office and share it efficiently with towns, is by creating this regional umbrella service and being able to collect information, think critically about it, and push that information back to the towns in a way that's useful and provide some cost savings from their municipal perspective. So you have this Open Cape Highway, you have this Strategic Information Office that's happening at the Commission now with these products that we're really adding value locally and developing locally. That will be of great value to the towns. What we need is that regional umbrella service that will allow us to take that information and share it, design that regional platform and share it with the towns. And so I think that's where the larger discussion starts with county services and Sean's shop, those emergency services that that need to have that sort of centralized platform, and with the county IT providing a lot of the support, the county making a lot of investment in hardware that would be very useful in sort of knitting together this project. So I think that's the nature of the discussion that's in front of you.
Could you or someone describe what does a regional umbrella service or a regional area network look like? And what does it consist of, and how does one access it?
Oh, the first effort, I think, would be aimed in the first year at creating governance of this. And so that involves working with the 15 towns to assemble an appropriate board that's going to inform the regional umbrella services. We are not here to push top-down information. But we can be reactive to the needs of the communities and the municipalities when they bring to us some of these issues that they would like to see more information on, or that they think there would be that the correct economy of scale is at a regional level. And so it's putting together that board of directors that will represent the towns and directly interface with this regional regional umbrella service. So that's sort of the first year. Now on top of that, we have hardware and a co-location center here at the county, and an ability to sort of branch out and use that sort of tremendous increase in capacity that Open Cape's going to give us to network with other people. But in many cases, the right economy of scale really is at the regional level on some of these sort of shared services. So that's, I think, what it starts to look like is a strategic information. You'd have to have someone who convenes the board. You could have a strategic information officer that is a county employee that oversees a lot of this information and interacts with that board. And then at some point, there will have to be some structure that supports the services that go out. So some sort of help desk. But that can still be configured in a number of different ways. So I think that's why the structure right now has like 3 main pieces associated with it, but I don't think it gets down to that level of what kind of staff support we'd need and what kind of services that they would be providing. I think the initial foray is to take the services that we know we have, assemble a board that represents the towns, and then to work with that board to establish what the rest of this is going to look like.
I have a question, but
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
wouldn't mind hearing from, I guess I could wait for Paul and hear if Sean has anything to add to.
Sure.
You've been involved in some of these conversations with Dan and Paul.
Absolutely, and actually in the context of working on umbrella services, we've actually already started to in the public safety arena.
Right.
And that's
Sean,
taking...
For the public, could you identify yourself, please?
I'm Sean O'Brien from Barnstable County Health. In the public safety arena, we've really started to look at what the Open Cape system can do and what it has in the future. Looking at 700 megahertz systems for communication, actually data communication for police and fire. And then additionally working with the actual wireless backhaul of the Open Cape backbone that wireless backhaul is actually, as part of the process, is to be dedicated towards public safety. And so if there is a loss in any of the infrastructure, it allows us to have a backup for our public safety, for internet connectivity and things of that. So, we've tried to work that in to developing our shelters and making sure our police and fire departments have that redundancy that's available to them. We've been working at this probably for about 1.5 years now, with a committee under the Regional Emergency Planning Committee. We have a small, we call it the Open Cape 700 Megahertz Liaison Committee, that is working under the Regional Emergency Planning Committee to identify some of the uses of this program and this project and what we can get out of it. And so, just looking at it and having been experienced with it over the last 1.5 years, there is a lot of opportunity for us as a county to be able to put out to the towns, a lot of service, a lot of things that can happen, and I think Paul hit the nail right on the head. But we have to make sure, number one, it's what the towns want, and number two, establish that governing board. I see this growing into a pretty big responsibility, and I think, as Paul had mentioned, that potential of a position or that potential of a department or a separate department or something like that, because there are a lot of services that can be really added, and really looked at. And I think what the commission does for GIS, to be able to take that and expand it out to the 15 other towns is huge. And to be able to share common bases for assessing or whatever is absolutely incredible, because number one, it saves money. And with what we're in now, it's just really, it's a great opportunity. So, I think as we start to move forward, and as you said, Mary Pat, we're not really at a decision process yet, but I think we have a lot of opportunity to sit down and to start to roll out how we want this thing to look.
What do you see as the model for the governing committee? I mean, what would it look like? We said it has to be representative of the towns, just representative of all the towns, of some of the towns, of regional areas of the Cape.
Can I also add on to that question a little bit more detail? It could be, a board to me is different than an advisory group. So what is the difference, and what would their influence be? What would be the level of their influence and the impact of it that you are imagining? And I think Pat's point is good. Do you have somebody from each town, which in our practice doesn't always lend to regional solutions? They're more town-centric. So is it better to have someone from 3 or 4 towns representing that area, or the Lower Cape, Upper Cape, Mid Cape area, 2 from each, something like that?
If you even want to comment on that.
I kind of get a little nervous when it's always the 15 towns.
Part of this is I don't want to presume that we have something necessarily in mind. What I'd like to do is convene the 15 towns and have a discussion with them about what sort of structure they think would be more important. We have a lot of structures to sort of draw on, and I have said in the past, and I think that it's true. When you're trying to accomplish regional goals, but you draw representation from 15 towns, you create an inherently non-regional board. This is the exception to that rule, because what we're going to do here is we're looking to interface directly with the municipal governments. And so we could look at the RTA board as an example of something where there's a great deal of participation from town administrators, town managers, and some of the chief elected officials in those towns. And I think that works pretty well, and I think that's the kind of model I think we would look towards, because it's a similar kind of interaction that we're seeking from the 15 towns.
Okay.
If I...
No, I know, that's fine. That question was answered, but there's... John?
I'd just love to build on the answer just a little bit,
Okay.
if I possibly could. There's two different ways. One of the
you
reasons,
need to
John
identify
Morse,
your
IT
face.
Director for Barnstable County, building upon what Paul was saying, each of these initiatives are going to be regional in effect, but going to mean different things to different towns. So it would be pretty darn important for Town A, let's say, to really have somebody at that table, not necessarily just for we want our influence over this, but also so that they can figure out, oh, we want to get involved in this. We want to use this, leverage this to help improve our town services. So that certainly is part of the concept of why it makes a lot of sense to have every town. Another thing, if you go back to the meeting that we had, the Smarter Cape Government Board, where the concept that Dan Gallagher had potentially floated for this, which is worth mentioning at this point in time, is that membership from each representative town could possibly rotate. It could possibly, depending upon what the board was dealing with, it might be a subject matter expert that actually could help inform the board on a potential decision, or it might be somebody that is the best representative from that town on that particular piece of service in order, for them to decide if they want to participate or not. So just some other thoughts.
It's an important point, but I think what we would conceive is 15 towns with 15 municipal representatives. They would choose certain issues that they wanted to deal with, and that subject matter experts from all the towns would be brought together on those particular issues.
Right, no,
Because
I
it could
think
be,
that's a good one.
it could be police, could be fire, could be IT, GIS, any number.
Now, this governance group, governing board, as you might want to call it, would not deal with the public safety or would deal with the
Oh, they would.
public safety piece? Sean, your thoughts on that?
I think right now we're kind of off and running.
On your own, with
Right.
your own
Right,
group?
because you have your own 15 towns, plus
Yeah.
the other services, auxiliary services of Red Cross and those sort of things.
Exactly, but I think as it starts to move and it starts to develop, and as things start to catch up, it's something that we could be working together with in the future.
Yeah, I think Sean's board does work well, but it's one of those sort of subject matter expertise, there's a specialty associated with that.
Right.
But some connection between that and this governing board would be essential, because the real opportunity in front of the county right now is whether your individual departments that are going to start to leverage the assets of Open Cape are going to do so independently, or whether we're going to do it in a combined way.
Bill?
I'd like to speak to the RTA model, because I think the success of the RTA model is the strength of the executive that basically is steering the ship. The board there does introduce things that are important to the town, but they take full advantage of the work of the executive and the staff that he's created to support that. So, and to me, that's a key thing. You mentioned having some type of a directive. There is an issue, though. What is the level, in your opinion, of direct county involvement in terms of moving it forward? Does it stay part of the county, in your opinion, or does it like the Cape Light Compact? Do we spin that off so that we're providing administrative services, or is it like the MPO where we provide representation and they're basically acting as a conduit for funds to do things in the county? So 3 different models. I would tend to support the RTA model if we had a strong executive.
Yeah, I think we've envisioned it as actually becoming a sort of a county department.
Right.
And rolling up right to the commissioners through the county executive.
Because there's going to be a direct county services to all the towns. It's not really like the services funded by somebody else, like the feds or the state. The funding source is elsewhere. The funding source from here will come somehow through the county.
Well, I think that the clarity
Yeah.
clarity comes in as to what exactly, what's this money source and what's the management, the management responsibility.
Sheila?
And just thinking about this and having had conversations since 3 years ago, we tried to do a strategic information office. At that time, we sort of conceived it working out of the Cape Cod Commission. To me, through this conversation, it still looks that way, and also in conversations with Dan Gallagher that I've had at length. So, is it conceivable that say it's established within the Cape Cod Commission, and you are, as executive director, you have a very good understanding of where this can be applied and how you understand the technical and economic benefit of the technical
I would suggest
application.
I understand the technical aspects of it.
Well, not all of it, but you understand its power and what the capabilities of it and how it can be used, and in a so it would then take somebody you would hire to be the sort of department head who would be responsible for the information going to the towns, convening these boards, and working with you. I mean, is this conceivable in your mind?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the issue becomes, is this, you are a planning and regulatory agency, you're now moving towards direct service provision.
Yep.
Now, the mission, that the Cape Cod Commission has is one of planning and
Yes.
support of our regulation. Now, when you move into, let's say, direct service provision, although there's some elements of that with, Roshinskis
Yep.
and, in that particular board, this is moving the commission in a direction that's closer towards what the health department does, and what human service does. So that's a concern that I have in terms of a mixed
maybe I
mission.
understand the combination. I think I get a better sense of the question now. I think the way that we have conceived it on the county level is really a collaboration of county departments.
Right.
It's not going to be an outgrowth of the Cape Cod Commission.
Right.
We have to understand our challenge up front is really in convening this governance board. So somebody really should have some leadership associated with performing the functions necessary over the first year or two in order to get it set up. Once it's set up, I think it becomes a county department, because you're right, Bill. It's operational. It's not necessarily what we do. We potentially become a client of it, but not necessarily running day-to-day operations.
Right.
Although Ann Reynolds, the GIS department manager at the Cape Cod Commission, GIS is one of the lesser known departments of the commission, which is technical services. And so although we get in the papers for our regulatory and planning efforts, we also do quite a bit of technical services for the towns. So
Let us say that the GIS is a very important department.
No,
it is the unsung hero
Well,
in many cases of work that goes on.
Ann's point is that GIS is our informational department,
Right.
and it does provide. It does do sort of operational.
as does our
Yes.
transportation department and our water
Right,
resources
yeah, there are a lot of
department.
services that you already provide in a more technical.
But those are in technical assistance. It's
Right.
not like if a town has an issue with a piece of software, they call the commission and we help them.
Right, exactly. And then that's where Mark would come in. He would be the support, that somehow a support system or something would be coming more from that department, because they're the ones with the wires and
Well, I think already we've had a
connections.
request from one of the Outer Cape towns for some IT support services. We've had requests for towns for building inspector services. So you see more of these requests coming from towns that know that they can save money by regionalizing these efforts. Now, we have the building inspector at the commission. I think John is considering providing some support to the town of Wellfleet. But this is part of the overall discussion. You have to structure,
Right.
how much you want your county IT department to do internally, and then what sort of structure you might need on top of that in order to provide services regionally.
Exactly.
But it's clear, from the initial discussions, that there are significant savings to the towns by looking at some of these options. And one of the potential benefits of Open Cape involves phone systems. And the ability to go to an IP-based phone system instead of the hardwire one. Instead of in the town of Provincetown, for example, and Dan has used this example before, they pay $160,000 in phones and phone bills. And under an Open Cape structure, they could pay 1/10 of that.
Only if they join a regional network.
Right.
Right.
Yes, if they become part of the area.
Right.
Right.
Right,
part of
but
the-
that's a
but
network
that's-
we could
There's
provide.
there's another issue here that brings itself up, because as the towns are looking to outsource through the county, and we talk about, let's say, providing a service, I think this is an opportunity to examine the benefit of whether we should outsource on a contractual basis to actually put this together, because the contracting, you would bring people in who already are at a level, let's say, at a level of knowledge, and they could put together a program, whereas if you hire somebody, the day that they show up is the end of what, let's say, the level of his outside experience. So
Well, that's what a governance committee can sort out.
Yeah, I think
is
both
whether
models
it
are-
goes internally or whether you bring in.
But I think you're right, Bill, in that there are certain aspects of this project, especially because it's technology and information based, where we might hire out for all 15 towns a certain kind of expertise.
But
And
nevertheless, performing that coordination effect
Yeah.
of, let's say, of serving, recognizing that we're trying to serve the functional responsibility that we have, and then the form, I think, follows out of that.
Yeah, I think there's a way, with the help of a governance board, that you can get significant savings for the municipalities with a regional collaboration on this board, without building a huge department that requires a lot of people, because there is the opportunity to outsource a lot of this expertise.
This is where all of our organizational development skills come into play, isn't it, truly, huh? Wow. It does. Because that's what it is. Very interesting. So, but we can't really delay. So we need to move, I think, at least to get the governance committee set up
Yeah.
as soon as possible.
And you have some money associated in the budget.
Right.
And
for
we
this
still
too,
have
so-
some from this year, I think, and we
Yeah.
have money in the budget for next year.
Do you have, can you put this, like, say, as written down on a, let's look at the first year and a half, 2 years. Let's just say for 2 years. How would this roll out? With the expectation that it's going to spin off, not into a separate entity, but to another department within the county.
I think that's the plan, and we do have something on paper. We're just, I think, sharing it internally, but by next week, I think
Next
we
week,
could have
yes,
it.
we're having
Yeah.
a much more formal discussion next week,
And so-
when Mark and Maggie are both back.
Yeah, and we'll have a discussion with you then, but what you should expect is a county coordinated effort among departments.
Right.
That clearly outlines what the deliverables over the first year or two of this project would be. And that, but I think we all see it as, at some point, if it's successful, really being integrated as potentially a county department that's separate from the departments.
Well, the thing I like about this is that it is such a collaboration of effort and thought. And it does have to be housed somewhere, and it has to have some sort of, and I think that already just talking to Sean and Paul, they get the potential, and even the potential that they can't even appreciate at this point. So I would love to see the proposal. I think that it would be, I can just see this as being sort of like, almost like the heartbeat eventually, because a lot of people will be, not only our own departments will be going to that, but it will be such a crucial focal point for many of the towns, for not just services, but for their information, for the citizens. And in speaking to Dan, there was always, as you were saying, the identity. If somebody's trying to look up their information about their housing or their assessing or any of these things, even though it may be housed here, when it comes up on the webpage, it will say Wellfleet, Massachusetts, or Orleans. So it looks very homegrown. It looks very personal, and it's still within the town bylaws, and everything matches what it is they want. So it's a terrific
Sean?
Yeah,
opportunity.
I agree with Paul. I think the governance board is going to be critical. One of the things that we've realized, especially doing some of the studies that we've had happen over the last year, is how important it is for the towns to have a say in what is being done. It's absolutely critical, and that was a big part of the 911 dispatch grant, was just governance. So I'd be more than happy to help out with it as well, and work on putting something like that
Okay, I think
together.
that's terrific.
One of the things that Sean brings to all of this is his well-documented experience of bringing disparate groups together.
Yes, I know. Speaking of which, there's one down in Wellfleet called the National Seashore, and they did want for me to extend their thanks to you for that information I asked you for, there was a request of, is there anything going on with the disaster plan in case of a nuclear fallout? And of course, we
Getting a
just
permit.
go into our house and crack open something and tape our windows. But that's about it for now. But I think they're working on something a little bit more.
A little more formalized.
Yes, yeah. So, but they really did appreciate it, and I think you're going to be getting a request for you to come down and talk about it to the advisory committee of the Seashore. So, and that's what I said. So.
Have we exhausted this topic for the moment?
Well,
What?
so.
We're going to
just
take this up
summarize,
again
what-
next week.
No, I get that, but what have we looked at today? We've introduced the subject of where
A governing board.
that we need to start thinking about a governance framework. We have to start thinking about the population of that governance board. We have to start thinking about, I think we have to start thinking about what type of resources and assets do we put behind it. And I think we have to take a look at what benchmarks or timelines we have to associate with it to determine whether or not we're making any kind of, let's say, progress with regard to moving it forward. I think those are some of the things that we've introduced today. And then, of course, there's that other business of defining roles of the existing organization in terms of identifying the assets that that we have on hand, as before we reach out because one of the issues with other recruiting that we've done is that there's a question of being very clear as to what we're asking people to do in terms of the charge that we give them. And I think that has a great measure of contribution to the success of the things that have turned out well. I mean, that's what I was hearing in this, yeah.
Yeah, it always reminds me of the person who was recruited to be on a committee of sorts, and agreed to do it, and then said, "Oh, you never told me I had to come to meetings." That's kind of like, you're right. You have to explain the mission and what's expected.
So next week you'll have more of a formal presentation, of a rollout on an idea, and we can take a good look at it then.
When are we going to hear from Rauschenbach and
On vacation next
Right.
I don't know,
Okay.
I
Well,
haven't
have a
heard
great
yet.
time.
But I would imagine. Okay, that concludes the topic on the Rust? Good. Okay, then the next thing we wanted to take up is, I put on here a discussion for the process. Of
You're
how-
welcome to stay.
What?
They're welcome to stay.
Yeah, sure. The special commission.
Thank you.
Oh, you gotta go.
You gotta go.
Thanks,
All right.
Sean,
Thank
for
you, Sean.
coming.
Dennis, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you want? Okay.
So in thinking about this, first of all, we have to look at the things that we can do now. What can we do now that doesn't take any legislation, doesn't take anything? We can just begin to implement them. And then the other part is, it's really an organizational plan of how we move forward with the recommendations. And I know Henri and Rob are going to come in at some point and present us with the final document. But in the meantime, I mean, we don't have to wait for that
No, I agree.
to do this. Like, for instance, one of the things we could do right away is to write a job description for the county executive. And we could actually post it and interview and hire for a county executive, however we choose to do that. Because I was reading the charter again, the Barnstable County Charter, and even though the powers of the executive rest with the commissioners, it doesn't preclude us from delegating those to someone else under the charter. So we don't have to have any legislation to do that.
That's right.
So that's something that we could begin.
Well, indeed, if I recall the language in the charter, that's what we have delegated.
We have
authority
delegated already.
Already to Mark, and the question comes as to whether or not we see our present executive in a position of strength, or have we given him the
Well,
appropriate guidance?
he's not an executive. He's an administrator. He doesn't have executive powers. We have
Only
them.
what we can
We
say
can
to him.
delegate them
Right,
to him.
and we've
But
talked
we
about-
need if we agree that, I mean, I don't want to just start with him. I just said this is an example
Okay.
of the priorities that we could set, that we could act on without having to wait for any other.
I'd like to support that by saying that it's been my contention for a long time that many of the things that we sign off on here are indeed administrative in nature and could be we could delegate that responsibility, and then I think that would give us more time to give attention to the policy role that we have by a lot of the personnel actions in there, to me, are strictly, management and operational, not policy.
Well, I'm taking the next step, which is to say, let's write a job description for a county executive. What do we want a county executive to do? Rather than just piecemeal delegating it, because what they're recommending is, and if we choose to adopt this recommendation, is to actually create the position of a county executive and write a job description.
I'm not clear as to, in the recommendation that, that I heard, as to whether or not they are recommending that we have one that we hire or one that one that gets elected.
No, the recommendation is that that there will be a strong county executive, and the similarity is to a strong town manager. The person has appointing authority, the person has financial authority, the person has, did I say hiring?
Mm-hmm.
You're hiring and appointment authority,
Right.
person can appoint certain committees. Actually, many of the executive powers that we have now would rest with the county executive. And that this person would be a person who obviously would have to have a staff that certain activities could be delegated
Supported. Now, he'd have to
to
have
that
a
staff,
good
because
support
they
staff.
also want this person to be the picture, the image of Barnstable County, of county government, to be out there, to be recognized, to communicate with other towns, with all the towns, so that people know who this person is. Well, I was there for all those meetings, so I heard all this.
Well,
You haven't probably heard all of this.
No, I
That's
heard
why.
at the end when they were summarizing
Yeah.
all of this, I heard that, and everything you're saying we can do right now.
Well, I'm just
Right.
saying,
Because
we
all-
need to prioritize going forward what can we do first without any other
Okay.
approvals.
I've always felt.
I just said that's one thing we can do
Okay,
first.
I've always felt we could change the name of what Mark does from being administrator to executive, and then write a job description that includes.
First, we write the job description, then we change the name. You gotta have it, because first of all, you have to look at the job description, and then you go through the other process of, are we going to advertise the position, which we would probably have to do anyway.
Not if we just changed his job description.
It's not just changing the job description, it's creating a whole new
It's a
position.
whole new position.
This is an entirely new position. You would have to advertise it, you would obviously consider an internal candidate, or Mark particularly, if he were interested. He may not be interested. Maybe that's not the kind of job he wants. But we're getting too detailed. I want
Yeah.
to go back to setting priorities. Let's not get into a deep discussion about that now. Because the idea now is we need to move forward on the recommendations of the special commission. We want to talk about process. What process can we follow? We should have the things that we can do, set priorities, the things that need to be done first, the things that we can do within our own authority without any other authority approving, the things that we have to seek either authority or collaboration with, and then on down the line. In terms of the Assembly of Delegates, that would be something that would take legislative action perhaps, so.
Whatever we
That's-
do,
Yes.
I feel very strongly that if we are really going to get into big things or changing anything, we need to have some sort of legal counsel. And I'm not speaking about Bob Troy, and I'm not speaking about someone that has known us for thousands of years, even though they're not affiliated with the county. I'm talking about somebody totally with no relationship to county, with any of us.
You're talking about a facilitator
I
or a
am talking
consultant?
about a guide, a legal guidance through any of this with legal recommendations that is fresh. I'm not talking about people that, we all have, everybody's been here for a long time and everybody knows everybody else and there's some very good people. But for me, I would want somebody that knows municipal and county government. Copeland and Page has like everybody's business, but they do have people within that structure that have this, or there's other law firms that have very good expertise.
Why an attorney?
Because
Why couldn't it
this
be
is,
a management consultant? I'm just asking.
well,
a
you could
question.
you could have a management consultant, but if you're going to be setting anything up that might lead to a legislative change, I think we need legal guidance through every one of those steps, and it can't be the people who have been here, because it's, even if they're as objective as anybody wants to try to be, you're going to be attached to what it was that you were part of or what you created, and everybody is attached to that charter of 18 years ago.
So you define what you want the person to do, and then you define,
Right, but I would want
now
somebody
who would
totally
be the
outside.
best person or the best type of person to do
Right.
that work.
Right, but I don't want anybody that has any,
Yeah, an outside person.
an outside person, anybody that has any foregone, any relationships, any of that, to be able to look objectively at what it is we're trying to accomplish.
If we're talking about organizations, very few attorneys, in my experience, have what I call organizational skills. They are hampered by staying within the law. If you get somebody new, we have to pay for that person's education with regard to what we do here, which means that that's an additional expense. If we got, in my opinion, if we got an organizational
Wait a minute,
management consultant,
Okay.
I
We're
think
talking-
And
Wait a
that's
second.
fine, you can get that too. What I'm saying,
think-
along the way, we need legal guidance with any of those things.
At some point, we would, and we could always seek out a legal opinion on something, or at that point, maybe introduce that. I'm just thinking, the process for going through this. This is a major change in county government, and
if we
Well,
decide to
that's,
make that
yeah, at
change.
first, what I would
No,
like is
well,
to get
wait,
the report.
what I'm just saying is we know what the recommendations are. We have them already for the most part, and some of them are adding other responsibilities to county government. We have our internal report, but I think we want to focus first on the external. I think the first step is the whole governance issue that has to be
agree.
looked at, because everything else would fall into place once the governance structure is established. So that's really, I see, as the very first step. And the rest of it will come at a later time. But the process, I'm thinking about the process for doing this.
Well, is there any suggestions or comments?
Well, do you have a vision in mind as to what the process, what the step, you've mentioned one thing already, identify those things that are
mentioned-
within our control.
Yeah,
Okay.
and what would be the most important thing to do first, that we
Yeah.
can do first? And that would be, in my opinion,
Yep.
is to write the job description for the county executive and move forward and implement it.
Yep.
That's the first thing.
Should we,
The rest of it is a little more complex, because it requires, that's going to require a decision. We either go through the charter review process for the recommendations regarding create merging, and I thought there was a really good word, to merge the legislative responsibilities of the assembly with the policy-making responsibilities of the county commissioners, and merge them into one, and thus create 7 county commissioners.
in several of the
which-
cases that, that I brought back, it does speak about what the responsibilities of executives are, and some of both the support and some of the impediments that were placed in the way of the counties that that had looked at that, because many of them had looked at that because of, some of them were driven by corruption that,
For the reasons I state.
Well, I think, I think that what this
Are you sure?
resembles is, it resembles a lot a strong town manager form of government, where the town manager is the appointing authority, hires everyone, manages the finances, prepares the budget, and acts as the executive, makes executive decisions for the county. And then the commissioners become the policy-making group. This is the proposal. They become the policy-making group, and then they merge the legislative functions of the assembly to their policy-making role, and they become the legislative policy-making group.
that's that,
That's the
7,
final,
over 7,
the
right.
7 commissioners,
And
right?
actually, in one of those, they talked about merging the the largest city in the county with the county. That was one of the in one of those case studies that that was reviewed as to what that meant in terms of, you talk about a strong town manager. Remember, a town has more assets and resources than we do.
But we are not a county like other counties in this country. We are totally different. We don't have any public works functions. We don't have
School functions,
We don't
fire.
have any of that.
But as we talk about regional
simply have
services,
a regional function
right,
for services that support the communities.
Okay, we could
But
agree.
we don't take over any of their functions.
well, the point that that was that I think suggested was that by merging the assets of a large community with the county, who had fewer assets, the ability to have to share the core, the hardware and the infrastructure that was present in the city, and by using the county umbrella to sort of move things around, did have some merit with regard to regional services, because we are going to have to, if we start doing some of the things that we're talking about, we're going to have to get stuff. We're going to have to get hardware. We're going to have to, put together, staff. We're going to have to do things that might exist in an underused fashion in some of the towns.
The only thing is that each of the towns are governed by home rule, and that is totally different from any other county in the United States of America. They don't exist except the state of Massachusetts. So you can't use their people, you can't use their equipment, it's just not possible. I mean, at this stage of the game, maybe 50 years from now, something like that might happen, but
in Chapter 34 and 35, it does give you a method of getting
intermunicipal agreements.
Yeah,
Yes.
We can provide an umbrella for those towns that agree to use us
True.
as that umbrella.
But we can't take away their executive authority.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, we know that.
Yeah. Any
So,
thoughts?
have any thoughts? You weren't at all the meetings, I know.
I
but
wasn't at most
Most of
meetings.
them, yeah.
And
Jerry was.
This seems to be above my pay grade, but I think your discussion about process is a good one. So at some point, I guess the chairs are going to present something to you,
They are. Mm-hmm.
and then you would accept it, potentially vote to endorse it, and then you would want to take the information in that report and put it into a matrix that consists of the things that you could do now.
Right.
And the things that would require some subsequent or some other authorization, those would probably have to take the form of legislation. I think
Somewhat,
even
yeah.
before you would send it over to the assembly as part of the process considered in the charter. So you're either going to have to, on your own or with some professional help, parse out that information in the report, or you're going to have to direct the chairs that you would like the report, but you would like them to provide to try to parse it out for you.
I think we need, as Sheila suggested, an independent facilitator that guides the three of us with regard to going through this.
Well,
That might be the right time, once you have accepted and endorsed it, you set out a process by which you want somebody to go through it and establish what you can do now and what you would need legislation to do, and then to draft that legislation for you, and it'll probably be the best time to go out and bring in some outside objective expertise to do that.
yeah, I think someone needs to take control of the day-to-day functions of moving this process forward. And that would not be us, nor would it be the county executive to do that either. So we could have just someone to come in
A consultant.
and make sure that things move forward, that meetings are posted, that outside, any outside resources that need to be included, people that have to be brought in, consultants, opinions, whatever, that all that gets done. It's going to take someone to stay on top of the process, really, whatever we decide that process is
And
going to be.
that isn't somebody that shows
Because
up once a week, like us. It needs to be somebody every day.
Well, it needs to be a function. They don't have to be here every day, but they need to stay on top of it every day.
Okay, so
I mean,
you're
they need to
suggesting a
move it along.
contractor or somebody within the staff?
Well, and that's,
Yeah.
I think we
Maybe a
need to
consultant,
hire
yeah.
somebody to help us manage this process through, because it's a changing, actually, the way we do business here in the county.
No,
The
we've
way
left
we
out-
operate it, the change of authority,
We've left out one thing.
what?
It has to go through the charter, and the charter has to go through the assembly.
There are two ways to do it. It can go through that, or it can go through with a, notwithstanding any general law to the contrary, piece of legislation. It can go either way. And that's another major decision that we will have to make at some point. And that's part of this process. We're going to have that discussion, and it's not going to be easy, but, and it should take some public input as well. I know the League of Women Voters will want to weigh in on that, and,
Now, with the
I-
League of Women Voters, not only as, directly or suggesting a directed outcome, are they going to participate in the implementation of this? Are we going to invite them to do that?
well,
Well, I
that's
think
part of the
comments are
process,
always,
so we have to get to that, what that process will be.
I do think that the idea of receiving the report, listening to the rationale behind different motions that were put forward, and even having a discussion with the chairs about, parsing it out into a matrix is at least the first, is a beginning of us to take a look at the work at hand. What do we want to tackle and what's going to come? And all of that, once we get to that point, we may decide to go ahead with things, but I do think it's nice to involve the assembly at that point to say, this is what the report said, these are the things that can be done within our power. We don't have to go, beyond ourselves to do these things. And we are willing to do it. We're hoping the assembly supports us in these efforts, such as executive or whatever it is we may choose to do. And if there are bigger things, legislative changes, those are going to need public support anyway, and they're going to need an understanding with the public. And I think that, if you're involving the assembly, which if they are, hopefully in favor of working together and going forward, there is a big piece there, and then it can be, these decisions as they are made can be, vetted out to the public, have the public input, have them understand what it is that we're doing, even if they don't really care. At least they have an idea of what's going on here.
Yeah, go ahead.
If, when you sort of separate what you can do now, what the Board of County Commissioners could do either on their own or in conjunction with the Assembly of Delegates, obviously there needs to be a public process around that because you can just do it.
Right.
The other stuff that requires any sort of change in the form of government that would take the form of legislation is going to, whatever form that takes is going to go to legislature. That's going to come back on a referendum and be subject to a countywide popular vote.
Right.
So that, that's the way that's going to happen.
Yeah, and that would, I think, that public input would be more helpful if it came first.
Well,
And-
I
well,
think if you have any hope of that being successful,
You
I
gotta
would
get
encourage a
the public
public
support.
process.
Yeah, a
before
public
you
process,
vote.
and then a continuing public process once it's filed as legislation, so that people can understand what's going to be on the referendum.
There's great detail about the problems that, that they had for the ones that were unsuccessful, and they point out that they were like 2 and 3 times before the people before.
That's
you know,
right.
before they would accept it.
That's usually why they fail.
Yeah.
Because the public doesn't understand what
Exactly.
it's all about. So they say, I don't know what this
They
is,
go
so
with
I'm
the
not going to
knee-jerk.
vote on
So
it.
there's the
reaction.
So that's
participation
why the
piece.
whole public participation, all the way through, and all the outreach is so important
And they even
on
talk
that
about,
part of
they
it.
use the word overkill on communications because we may not appreciate how important that piece is as we're going forward.
Well,
But there's
Don't you remember the Cape Cod Commission Act back then, 87, 88, 89? And all the public outreach that there was on that? That was huge.
yes, I
That
do
was huge.
remember.
And even then, the vote was very close in some towns.
Are the chairman of this, the chairman
Oh,
of Senator Rauschenbach and O'Leary, are they scheduled to meet us next week?
I don't know that. I
Okay.
haven't heard.
Have we reached out to them and
Yes,
asked?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, they said when they,
Leave this on the agenda just in.
Are they going to give it to us in a nice little book like this? I
what?
thought this was it when I walked in. I was like, oh my God, it's so professional.
No, when they have it all written up and
We'll give it
prepared,
to them as an
they will let us know, but they expected it would be in about 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, I
so-
will. I'm going to read. Jerry, do you have any
Well,
other?
couple things, when you talk about accepting it, do you mean you're going to endorse each and every recommendation?
Well, it's two things. It's to accept the recommendations.
Right.
Yeah, they're
And
presenting
then
and giving them to
to
us.
vote on which ones at some point that we want to follow
See,
through
that
on.
will be part of the process
Right.
individually. And I also was interested in your suggestion that there be, I don't know if a facilitator, but a legal person who can guide or help you as you look at what is possible or not possible and what, I'm not sure you can simply say the administrator has new duties or maybe you can, but I think that needs to be
Understood.
sure that you can, and so that you could do a new job description if that's what you choose to do, and make sure that this doesn't, I don't know enough about it, but I think there are always hidden things in government that you better check that you're doing it the
Okay.
right way.
In the British private sector, you decide what you want to do,
And you do
and
it.
you go to a lawyer and say, I want to do this, now tell me how I can do it. Because if we wait, because,
At the point you were making before.
yeah, legally, a lawyer is averse to risk. And a lawyer, in the advice that I've asked for, is always, don't do it. Do nothing.
I think that's an important thing that you've always said and should go.
So I think if we decide what we want, then we present how much of this can we do and how much can't we do. But if we start off from the beginning, the lawyer is going to have a very,
Yeah.
what do I call it?
Right, or whatever it is that we have. But I mean, when it comes down to the real, if there's changes that have legal ramifications or anything, that's where we need somebody fresh.
I don't agree. I don't agree at all, because the big problem is to have someone, all lawyers have what I call the requisite amount of integrity to follow the law. And in following the law, they're advising you on the law.
Right.
You're asking for an opinion with regard to something that you want to do. And if you take somebody who has no experience with us, I think that we're being naive to believe that that something will indeed be missed in all of this. So I have a serious problem with
We can
that.
discuss that when the time comes.
So
Do
any
you know
other,
when you're going to send you the recommendation?
they're going to bring them to us.
They're going to come and meet with us and give them to us, and we'll have a discussion about.
How soon?
Well, they didn't say last week when that would be. They said it would take them a couple of weeks to get everything put together in
I'm
writing.
asking
And then as soon as
We
possible.
would like to present them to our own membership as a first step,
Right.
and finding out how people feel and what we as a league could do even before.
We're hoping next week, but that's
Yeah.
that's depending on their schedule. Maybe it will be 2
I don't
weeks.
think we know. We don't know.
No, we don't know.
Don't know at this
There's been an
point, no.
invitation put up, but
I don't know about next week.
They have indicated when they have their work all completed and in writing, that they will then set up a meeting with us. So I
Right.
just don't know when that's going to be.
But I still think
But
we ought.
soon, I know it will be
I think we
soon.
should continue to have it on our agenda,
I
because I
agree.
think there's more things that come up in terms of talking about the process for,
Yeah.
for going forward.
right. And I will read your. Thank you for bringing
Yeah,
that.
that was good.
I don't know how we.
And I would
think we
say
have to
we
be.
stand ready to be of help in providing an opportunity for public input and presentation at some point when
Yes.
it seems helpful.
Right.
Good.
Okay.
That
The
concludes.
other thing, if I've got the floor here.
You do,
What
Jerry,
I
you
was
have
saying
the floor.
before, when I read the recommendations, I know all the discussion, but that discussion should also be public, because people don't know what to make of some of this without, why has this been said? What is happening?
You know,
It
Jerry, on the
streams on the
website.
web right now.
But on the website.
There, I'm talking about each recommendation, which
Yes.
is very terse.
Right.
And having listened to everybody's comments, the public's going to need why they chose this.
Yeah, what was the final conclusion? Because if you look at the minutes that are on the website,
Yeah.
you really do get it's almost a blow by blow. They're very
Yes,
good notes.
They're very good, but if
minutes.
you're gonna present
But when
it-
yes, there has to be like a little summary of conclusion.
Something that says why.
I think you should call the chairs and tell them that as they're presenting it, but I agree with you.
I don't know whose job it is to do that, but.
Okay, that
Okay.
concludes that discussion, and now we'll move
Can I-
on to...
Can I
Yes.
just have, may I throw out one name as this consultant person?
You?
No, not me. He's an attorney. He's intimate with Barnstable County's operations and its people. He's never done business with the county. He has an office on Main Street. His name is Bill Delahunt.
Well, I hope Bill knows that you just said.
I don't know if we could afford them.
I know, that's right. Yeah, he's very expensive.
That's true. Thanks for that.
But,
We'll write his name down.
Yeah, we will.
I love Bill Delahunt. I wonder if it would be prudent.
Anyway,
All right, so now we're going to take up our, do you have anything else? Anybody that you
Anybody?
want to comment on this? Okay, then we're going to move on to our vote to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
yeah, and I had a couple of questions, but there's no one here to answer them. It was just a clarification, it wasn't a concern. May I see your minutes? I mean, all right, to approve the minutes. The minutes are, I do think that we have to be a little bit more specific in our minutes. Like even today, I wasn't sure if that, and I think I shut that, like, is
This is just a summary of action.
Okay, well, that's what I wanted, because I had a question on that.
Well,
But
these are
in
the
looking
minutes.
at the...
Wait, first we're doing the minutes.
Okay.
So you have reviewed the minutes? You haven't, then we're not going to
No,
vote
we're
on the
not gonna
minutes
vote on
if
the
you
minutes.
haven't
Right,
reviewed
I
them.
haven't reviewed
So we will take them up next week.
Next
So
week.
now we're going to take up the
Summary of items.
summary of items.
Okay, and what was it that I had it on my, and I didn't bring it with me. Oh, the prepaid green workforce training to attend the sustainable communities, okay.
That's
All right,
us.
That's,
Are you gonna go?
yes. Are
Did
we-
you?
are-
Well, you, where's...
When is that?
Did I give you, did you give it back?
Yeah, I put it in the, here, no, I put it in the folder. It's up at UMass Boston at,
This is it. It was, I had suggested to Kara that maybe she register us for this, but after I looked at all of the information, I decided, you and I were going to go one time and we never got there.
Right.
So Bill wants to go, and if you want to go, all you have to do is sign it because we're registered.
April 20th and 21st.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are registered already.
That's just to pay for the
actually,
registration.
we're only going for the 20th, the.
Just the
21st
one
is-
day,
The
April
21st is
20th.
a different thing. That's the colleges.
That's the college thing,
Yeah.
okay.
It's at UMass
Yeah,
Amherst?
UMass Boston.
Oh, UMass Boston.
UMass Boston. I believe it's UMass Boston. I mean, if you take a look at the second page, it does say that.
Yeah, I'll go. I mean, that's fine. Somehow that went by me. I don't know why I didn't understand
You
what
need to
that
sign
was.
it.
I will sign it. Oh,
Yes. Sign it, and then I'll just mark it 2 registrations only.
I wonder if is it the Massachusetts chapter of the Communist Party is still up there?
No, I guess that was it. There were so many things on here. No, I think that was it.
Okay. I'm gonna say not me, just 2.
Okay.
Okay, so
I
a motion
move the-
to approve?
Yeah, I
then?
have to give
The,
a motion to approve.
Okay,
Second.
second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. Does anybody have any reports?
I'll defer till I have a chance to summarize everything. I'll give you the same thing I gave before, which is I'll have all the material and I'll give you a summary of what
At the
what
next
happened
meeting,
in
maybe?
NACO. But I wanted to get this in front of you as soon as possible because that was like hot off the press.
Right. Well, I just have to say that if we're here next year, I think we have to go to NACO because Bill comes back with a lot of information, and I think if there's 3 of us going to different things, we'll even have that much more information to share. So,
Good
being
point,
in
because there are several committees that impinge upon what we do, and I try to get to as many of those as possible, and it would be good if
Yeah, if we had,
were
if
going to different
we
committees.
could go to different things and
Because
bring
that's
back
where
that
everything gets
information.
done. And that's where the
And-
lobbying piece, where we represent our constituents' interest is there.
Yes, and it does seem like you bring up more and more wonderful things, so I think it's time we start learning about this, and, we could have been down at DC, so, I mean, but it was close, it wasn't like we were going to Alaska for the conference, so,
The next one is, the one in July is in Pittsburgh,
okay.
and
The steel town of
there's one
Pittsburgh.
piece.
Santorum country.
Is it?
No, I don't think so.
Well, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Didn't work for
He was
him.
a senator.
There is one piece.
Didn't work for him.
If you want to be on these committees, okay, there's an administrative thing where we have to call up the guy in Norfolk County, because there's a county authority to say, okay, write me a letter that says I'm on this committee, okay?
All right, so we'll figure that out when July, let's think, let's put that on our, when you get all of the stuff, send it out to us and we'll figure that out. Okay. It's been 2 weeks, so I'm trying to think, but I did want to say that we had our rollout on the regional network to end homelessness. You attended the one that had Undersecretary Gorenstein there the Thursday after the last time we met. And then on Monday we had a press conference and rolled out our 5-year plan to address homelessness. This was really updating what was first called the 10-year plan to end homelessness. We were much more realistic than that, and we're addressing homelessness, but it was the first time that we looked at this report and based it on federal guidelines. And some of this was looking at, in some ways, the way the SEDS rolled out. If you sort of chop it up into categories or to the different areas, you can focus in on the problem with there. We all know that there are overarching reasons and causes that lead people to homelessness, and some are more specific and unique to each group. So it went with families and children, youth, veterans, seniors for the first time, and veterans were the first time we actually focused in on those groups. I led the senior focus group or subcommittee that did the report on seniors. Allison from HAC and David Willard did the veterans section. And it was broken up like that among the different executive members of the regional network. And we presented it, and as I said, Undersecretary Gorenstein was here from Department of Housing and Human Services, and Robert Pulster was here from the Interagency on Homeless Management, Homeless Services. I'm always screwing up because they changed it back and forth. So, and his right hand gal, Liz, and I'll forget her last name. However, that this was the initiative that was put forward on this by the state 3 years ago. The county became the lead, and and it really was to try to foster collaboration and efficiency, and not have duplication together. So they came down and we presented this, and it's in a wonderful book form, and we should have had it here to present to you. But we later got a letter from Robert Pelster saying that they were so impressed that this has now become sort of the template for the state, and that it has risen the Cape Cod Human Services to the top of the pack when it comes for granting resources and that sort of thing, because it really has showed that we have accomplished so much more by working together, and we've met a lot of these goals. So it's a great
wonderful.
success.
The last time he told us how wonderful we were doing, he stopped giving us money because he said we didn't need it.
Yes, well,
I get very worried about
well,
that.
that was because he stopped money on everybody. It wasn't just on them. They did this funding, they started this initiative, and then they weren't able to fund it. And it was really through Beth's department that kept up the regional coordinator, and we kept up the effort of keeping the group together and keeping the focus there. Everyone has been rewarded for this. And it has now been, it has been now, I know, Bill, just don't break it down to that. I'm just trying to explain, we've done very good work, and
Yes,
Beth has great things to accomplish.
Wonderful work. And it would be wonderful if, and I appreciate the fact that, that he, they gave us this praise, but a couple of years ago, we got all this praise from him, and then he cut us out, and he gave money to other parts of the state, saying we were the example.
That wasn't,
we were
but, all right, so you're telling part of the story. I'm not going to get into it. I was just trying to explain something that was an accomplishment, okay? So if you want to, take it down, that's fine. The other thing, and make it,
Money talks.
Yeah, money talks, I understand that. Well, hopefully, when it does exist, and people have money in the state, it will come to us first. We've positioned ourselves well. That's all I have to say. And I'm not sure what else you've been doing. Yes.
That's very exciting news, I think, and I
Yes.
hope that it will be presented to the community, that the state recognized the very good work of
It
our
was
own
extremely
human
well done.
services
The report
network.
is incredible. And it's really, I
It's on the
think,
website, too.
I was there,
Yeah.
and it was very well done, and the state is looking at this as a real model for other parts of the state.
People
And
need to really know
yeah,
this.
a huge amount of work was put into this. It was very, very well done. So we are very proud of that group, the Human Services Group, and all the other organizations that contributed to this. So, very good job. I was at the MMR, Mass Military Reservation, last week.
Yes, it was.
At the citizens, the MC3, the Citizens and Community Advisors. And there was a gentleman there from the Department of Defense. And apparently every 5 years, they do what's called a JLUS, or it's either a JLUS or a JLUS, however these acronyms. It's a Joint Land Use Study of the base. They did show the maps of the base and how the use of the land has changed. There were areas that were state, that were used by the state, and others used by the feds, and now they've all shifted around because of the 102nd Military Intelligence Group. Well, the 102nd Airborne left. So the 102nd now Military Intelligence Group, which the commander of which is the commander of the base.
It's not paratroopers.
Pardon me?
It's
Air Force.
He said special forces.
I didn't say special forces.
I thought he said it's like a
No.
special forces.
The 102nd
Airborne.
Fighter, the 102nd Fighter Wing.
Oh, that's
The
what they were.
102nd, well,
Okay.
whatever.
Okay, all right.
They're not the Air Force, they were the Air National Guard,
Right.
A&G. So, anyway, the upshot of it is that the use of the base has changed, therefore, the groups that operate those pieces of land have changed. So the state has different parts of their base now, and the feds have different parts, but it's all leased out. It's very complex. But anyway, the upshot of all this is now they have to do another land use study, a joint land use study. So they have decided that this group, the MC3, of which you are a member,
Yes, I am.
is going to be the policymakers for the land use study. And then they're going to have another group of technical advisors that will advise this group. They have to do a whole new land use study on the base, which I think kind of is very apropos because of the BRAC. The base realignment and closure
Yeah.
group, the BRAC. And every so many years, Congress has a BRAC, and they look at all the bases. And I think there are like 14 in the Commonwealth. And the lieutenant governor now has selected a task force, and they're going around reviewing all the installations in Massachusetts, so that they can persuade Congress that they should not close any of them. And the MMR, the task force is coming to the MMR on April 9th. I don't know what day that is. Let me see. April 9th is, it's a Monday. So I think I may have already. April 9th. I'm not sure exactly what time of day they're coming, but the Lieutenant Governor's coming with his task force to tour the base, and the MC3 group is going to meet with them. And everybody's going to do everything they can to keep this base open.
Yes.
So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Prove it.
That
Did
that
they
the
talk about
DOD,
the-
you know, Department of Defense is really involved in this.
Did they talk about the Center for Homeland Security that, that was talked about when Delahunt was in?
No, there was no discussion about the land use at all. They just showed the maps of how the land use has shifted because of the changes in the military operations. of the MMR.
Yeah, I think, did you say that the commission's gonna be helping?
The
I think they-
commission is,
yeah,
they
they're
did the
working with
last
that,
time,
yeah,
they did 5
yeah.
years ago.
So they're gonna be
So the
involved with
commission,
the land use.
Sharon
and-
Mooney was there, and Paul was there too, and the commission is, Cape Cod Commission is gonna provide planning support to the JS study.
Because there were when the Air Force, the Air National Guard, transferred to Westover, there was a lot of conversation about making this a center for Homeland Security for the East Coast.
Right.
Because the infrastructure, was there. And I was wondering if you're looking at at the changing mission, is, you've got the Coast Guard and the Coast Guard, the Air Sea and Rescue headquarters there, and you've got housing there, and there was some conversation about.
There is Homeland Security training there. They continue to train troops
Yes,
there.
there is a component of Homeland
And
Security.
military
This
intelligence.
was supposed to be
Like-
a larger,
Right.
Yeah.
a larger emphasis, a larger component, a larger detachment. That was going to be there.
It will probably come out during the course of the study. So the idea is it's a good time because of the BRAC, and we certainly don't want the MMR. I think their payroll is something like $28 million more.
It's actually less than when the fighter wing was here. 'Cause that was,
Yeah, but I mean, it's a huge
And
bonus.
the Cape Cod Commission does have history out there because when it was converted to a wildlife.
Bye, David.
Bye, David.
Wildlife preservation,
Yeah.
that the commission was, was part of that, part of that activity.
Okay, anything else do we have to take up today? If not, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, you have to
All in
bring all
favor?
this over to the assembly.
When